Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1396.
The hope is not a strategy.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Do you know the best way to protect your vehicle, both the exterior and the interior, is with a car cover? I've been using Covercraft car covers since 1975. That's right, 1975. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. Covercraft has been manufacturing premium quality exterior and interior covers for over 50 years with a stellar reputation for durability and design. They're the world's largest manufacturer of custom patterned vehicle covers that are crafted to fit over 80,000 patterns and growing. They are the only cover I'll put on my vehicles. You can choose from a wide variety of fabrics, styles, colors, and more. From full cover designs for factory to custom-made vehicles, plus convertible top covers, trucks, truck cab coolers, motorcycles, scooters, ATVs, trailers, campers, personal watercraft, and a wide variety of custom features. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark sent you. That's covercraft.com. Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest calling in from St. Louis, Missouri, Seth Burgett. Seth, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
Absolutely, I am, Mark.
All right. Seth is the chairman and CEO of Gateway Bronco, a company where they restore and build the finest vintage Ford Broncos available. At Gateway Bronco, he and his team built the way Henry Ford envisioned it on an assembly line. This enables them to offer up to a 5-year warranty and deliveries as short as 2 months. They supply the donor Bronco or they'll build one using your truck. 100% of the build is done in their 60,000 square foot Bronco factory. Seth is a seasoned entrepreneur, global executive, and board member. He is an inventor with over 40 patent pendings or granted. He has created medical device, robots, consumer products, and technology companies. He's been involved in numerous successful startups and sales of companies. He is a frequent speaker at the Olin School of Business as an executive mentor. Seth is progressing towards becoming a licensed vintage racer as well, with venues in his target, including Goodwood and the Monterey Historic Races. So, Seth, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, share a little more about your career, your business, and a very obvious passion for old automobiles?
You bet, Mark. So, the history here is an engineer that was an inventor and always had this passion for automobiles and continued down a path of building robots and kind of bigger and better and badder medical device robots. The kind of pinnacle was inventing a robot to navigate guide wires through the heart that led to the world's first transcontinental heart surgery. And so we had a joystick in Boston where the physician was in Boston live on the Jumbotron and the patient was in Milan, Italy. And so that was,
oh my gosh,
kind of, it was one of those moments where, as an inventor and engineer, that and thinking of myself as an inventor and engineer since I was a small child, that was kind of the pinnacle. And it was from there, what's next? And so through that process, the car world comes in more and more because we had to integrate that system with Siemens Medical in Germany. And so every couple of months, we'd fly into Nuremberg. One time I was leaving, heading back home, and I saw that there was a Porsche in the Hearst rental. I said, "Can you rent that Porsche?" And they said, "Well, yes, Mr. Burgett." And I said, "Well, what kind of lead time do you need?" They said, "Well, when are you going to be back, Mr. Burgett?" And so I told them, and so I rented a Porsche Carrera 4S, ceramic brakes, all before it was available in the U.S. We spent more in fuel than we did in the rental. So it was
no kidding.
for many years. Yeah, even inventing robots, the car thing was always there. And I was steeped in the middle of building a career. We had sold one company in robotics, not in medical device robotics. And we had an IPO for the medical device robotics, and then later a headphones company in sport headphones. And so all of those pieces, led to the ability to do what we do with Gateway Bronco today.
Yeah, it's a very cool story. I mean, it's fantastic. And I love it in many respects. One is you had a career in different areas, but your passion for cars always was tugging at your heartstrings. I've rented a Porsche over there in Germany and driven it as well. Yeah, it's a little, and you walk out of there, it hurts, and you go, wait, I think I want that one. It's a crazy price, but you can't bear to not rent it because they've got unlimited speed limits over there on the Autobahn. So, and I think back in the old days, actually, when I first rented one, you could take it to the Nürburgring. Now they've got strict rules that you cannot do that anymore. But maybe I was the reason they did that. I don't know. I didn't crash it. I kind of toasted the brakes, but I didn't crash it, I promise. So very fun. Well, listen, as we continue on your journey, I always like to start with a success quote or a mantra. This is some kind of saying that's been instrumental in forming your life and your success. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires smoking here on Cars Yeah. So, Seth, I know you love to drive, so take the wheel.
Yeah, Mark, I think that if I were going to look at a successful quote or mantra, the first part of that would be hope is not a strategy. It just, you cannot hope that at 180 miles per hour down the Autobahn that something bad won't happen. You have to plan for it. So, hope is not a strategy. But when you combine that with a mantra that I've used consistently, and that is focus is power. Put those two things together, it creates a potent combination. And in that last company, the headphones company that we sold to JBL, it took us from 0 market share to 40% North American market share as a startup. And,
wow.
And we didn't focus on what other people were doing. We just really put our heads down and focused on what was important for our customer, our business, and creating a great product. And that's the same piece that we use with Gateway Bronco. Focus is power, and certainly hope is not a strategy, no matter what you're doing. And so that would be, maybe 2. How about that?
I like it, and I love the first one because there's something my dad taught me long, long ago. And he said, son, there is no hope in business. And it's the same concept as what you just shared. Yeah, to sit around and say, well, I hope this works. Doesn't really work very well, for sure.
It usually doesn't work out well in the end. So
no, that's for sure. And especially when you're on a track, you definitely, I've interviewed enough race car drivers that hope has nothing to do with preparing to go to a race. That's for sure. Sure hope we win. No, that won't work. You're not on the team anymore. Yeah. Well, I want to go back in time a little bit. You've been a car guy for a long time, I can tell. And I want you to share a story that instigated this passion that you have for cars. Is there a pivotal moment in your life when you knew you were going to be a car guy for life?
Well, I think it was pretty obvious to everyone around me that there was something inside that was driven by this adrenaline junkie. My first memory actually waking up in an old Ford grain truck, very first memory. So first memory is actually in a car. Beyond that, though, every mini bike, every go-kart, anything that was powered, we were building it, tweaking it, doing whatever we could to make it go faster. And it was way before, most parents would allow. My parents wouldn't allow me to have a mini bike. So my uncle gave me a frame and I got an engine off of somebody. And, we started building it. And the first thing I did was pull the governor out and ran that thing to beyond red line and threw a hole right through the side of the crankcase. But, those are things that were pretty obvious right up front that I was destined for something along these lines. When I was about 8, I was at a car show. Well, my mother was going into the mall. It was back when the mall was a big deal in the 70s and all kinds of car shows everywhere. And I was having this conversation, like an adult conversation with a guy with a split window 427 Chevy and Corvette. And the guy just looks up at my mother. I just never forget this. And he's like, where did this kid learn this stuff? And my dad, by the way, my dad was a librarian. So this is not coming from him.
Yeah.
And so, she's like, I don't know. All he does is read Hot Rod Magazine and all these magazines, Carcraft Magazine. And so, I think at that point, it was kind of known that when that guy that I respected had a cool car and he said great things about me, that maybe I knew more about cars than other kids my age. I didn't know that until then. But, I think that was one of those moments, but it was pretty early in life that I knew I'd be an engineer. I knew I'd be doing something with cars. The adrenaline side was, just it's been there since day one.
Day one. Well, I always thought the stork dropped the baby in the Cabbage Patch, but your stork dropped you in a Ford grain truck. So if that was your earliest memory. So I think that that set the tone somehow, I think. So I like that. Well, I want to talk a little bit about a big challenge or a big failure you faced. No doubt because of your entrepreneurship, I mean, starting companies and trying to build them into something is fraught with challenges, ups and downs. One day you're the king. The next day you wonder if this thing is going to continue to fly. So kind of walk us through one of these big challenges you faced and tell us how you came out of it on the other end. And more importantly, what was that learning lesson and what values did that give you to move forward?
Yeah, Mark, I'll give you one of these things that my parents were both school teachers, and my father just recently again said, Seth, why in the world would you want to start a company? Why, you've got all these degrees from MIT and Stanford and all these things. Why don't you just get a normal 9-to-5 job like everybody else?
Job,
and so, he still doesn't understand I'm not wired that way. The last company, probably the biggest challenge I've had in business, period, was a company that we had grown from 100,000 in sales to $1 million, and then from $1 million to 10 million, 10 to 25 million. And we were somewhere between the 25 and 50 million range. And I was at a kid's ball game, and my CFO calls, and he says, I'm heading to Europe this afternoon. I got a big show over there. We need $3 million in 30 days or we're out of business. And it was a shocker.
Yeah.
It was a shocker.
You're telling me this now?
Yeah. And he goes, I've got no way to help. I'm going directly from, he was also managing our operation in Asia. And so he said, I'm going to China, going to Europe and then directly from there to China. He said, so I really can't help because I'm going to be on the road most of that 4 weeks. And so that was probably my biggest kind of a sucker punch, tough challenge that we had to work our way through. We did it. We raised about $3.4 million in 30 days, and the company went on to be a pretty substantial success. Probably the biggest thing that hit me that it just couldn't believe it, right? I mean, I'm just pacing at a kid's ball game and going, what in the world are we going to do? So that's probably it.
Well, let me ask you this. You don't have to get into the details of that, but if somebody was sucker punched, and that's a great way to put it, they have a business, they think things are kind of rolling along, and then something happens. And boy, it happens to a lot of people. I've had 1,395 people on this show before you that all face some kind of big calamity. How or what kind of advice would you give somebody when they get news like that? They've got a really short period of time to correct the ship, if you will. What are some of the first steps you would advise people to take versus running into the field and trying to get hit in the head with a fly ball so their misery was being put out of their misery? But what are a couple tips you might offer somebody of how you begin to tackle such an insurmountable odd?
Yeah, I think really it goes down to raising children as well. False evidence that appears fear. I've used this, raising 3 children, whether they believe it or not, I have no idea. But it's really false evidence that appears real, and you can't fear things that aren't real. You can't fear things that you don't know are in existence. Take what you know and compartmentalize that, triage it just like you would in the military, and build what you can out of what you know. And then the next day, the next week, the next, following weeks after that, you'll know more and more, and you can make more and more decisions. But just really triaging the situation. And anyone who's been in business is sucker punched. I mean, there's no one who's ever been in business who hasn't felt some kind of, wow, didn't see that coming. And then it's how somebody responds to it is what matters. And, finding a way to learn what you know, move on the next day, learn a little more, take some more corrective action.
Yeah, build a plan or work the plan, as they say. So,
yep.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about your first really special car. Now, I know from talking with you, and I'll let our listeners know, I had the pleasure of meeting Seth during Car Week down there in Pebble Beach, Monterey. We met at the Monterey Jet Center party that McCall puts on. It was an awesome party this year. It always is. I mean, it's fantastic. And Seth had some of his Broncos on display, and I just kind of went goo-goo all over them. And it was just so much fun to see those actual builds, because a lot of my guests I don't get to meet, and sometimes till after they've been on the show. But I would love for you to talk about a first special car, because the reason I mention this is obviously the Broncos that he builds, but he also has a very cool 67 Shelby GT 500. Is that right, or is it a 350?
I've had both. I would say that I waited a long time to acquire. I purchased two in one day, one on the East Coast and one on the West. Yeah, so it was a pretty unique day.
Double Christmas, yeah.
And one was a GT500, which is the car you were talking about. And I used to describe this. It was a survivor car. Found out it was a legit car, and had someone from Shelby American Automobile Club with me to vet the car. We bought it. And then we're heading back to the airport in Seattle. A Facebook posting that pops up on my phone, and somebody said, should I sell it or should I restore it? And it was a Shelby GT350 with the strap still on it. They just pulled it out of the barn and barn find on the East Coast. And so got all the pictures, and luckily I had the chief Shelby judge with me. We vetted it and bought two in a day.
Oh my God.
So yeah,
wow. What a day.
Yeah.
Well, that one came out of the Pacific Northwest, because I live up here south of Seattle. I'm in Gig Harbor. So that's pretty cool that the car came out of the Northwest. It was, I wonder if it's a car I saw. When did you purchase that?
That would have been 2016.
Okay. Well, maybe, because they have some great events up here. The Shelby Roundup and Mustang Roundup that they have up here every year. So I'm wondering if that car was at one of those events. Would you say that was really, or one of those was your first really special vehicle, or is there another car in your history that was kind of a first that you finally got and fulfilled a dream?
I mean, that was a first. It was a special car that I would describe it like this. I made a donation to BF Goodrich every day I drove it. And
I saw the video on your website. Yeah.
There was
burning some rubber.
No holding back with that car. It was a great car. That was 31 years later. I was 15 years old when I had the opportunity to buy a 67 Shelby in 1985 for $6,000. And it was lime gold, parchment interior, 42,000 miles. And the crazy thing is, you asked me about being a kid and kind of how young were you when you got involved. Well, I was age 14 and I started doing auto body. I did auto body from 14 to 24, worked my way through college that way. But before that, had a small engine repair at age 12. And by the time I was 15, had $6,000 in the bank, which is,
cool.
almost 15 grand a day. So it's a lot of money.
Oh, sure.
And I had the money. I didn't buy the car. So to get to your answer, your final answer, I bought a $1,500 Mustang, which I still have today.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's nice that you still have it. Well, that's a nice segue into my seller's remorse story. I asked all my guests if they have let a car go that they wish they had back. And I'll take money out of the equation because that muddies up things. I want to tug on some heartstrings here a little bit. And I don't want you to cry, but I want you to think about a car that you maybe let go that you really wish you still had.
Well, I think, my family was always a Ford family, and the 71 Torino station wagon that my father sold to buy the 79 F-250 Super Cab pickup, which is our family vehicle. That was literally it. And we drove cross country in the thing and did all that. So if I knew I was going to start a business like this, I probably wouldn't have let him give that thing away to charity. I probably would have kept that and built it into something cool. Yeah, that'd be it. I mean, other than buying that 67 Shelby, that would have been something I really wish I had done, but didn't. Waited 31 years later and bought a couple. And I bought even more recently, a better one.
Well, there you go. It finally came back around. So that's a good thing.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about what has you excited and fired up right now. Gateway Bronco. This is a very cool company. I told Seth when I met him at the jet party, I said, you know what? These things remind me of the Bronco version of Rob Dickinson's Singer Porsches. These are so cool. I mean, you don't just restore these things. You take it to another level. So tell my listeners about Gateway Bronco.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I really, really appreciate that. And when I sold this last company, I thought about, honestly, buying a Singer Porsche. I couldn't fathom the wait. So I ended up calling a couple of folks after collecting Broncos and I wanted to have a Bronco built. I didn't have a great response. One of them said that it'd be a 3-year wait. Others didn't feel great about kind of, what the interaction was like. And so I said, you know what? I'll buy a 60,000 square foot building and this will be the next business. And so
you're like Ferdinand Porsche. I didn't like a sports car that I could find, so I built one myself. This is an awesome story.
Well, I had 15 all original paint Broncos at the time, plus 2 Shelbys, which we talked about, and some other cars. And I didn't have a place to keep them all in one place. And so I thought, well, one, I need a place to put all these things. Two, I need a place to work on these things, either myself or having some folks that could help me. And three, I really enjoy the process of bringing something old and gnarly and making it just beautiful, reimagined, and huge passion around that. From a very young age, doing auto body, that's the thing I enjoyed the most, is taking something gnarly and old and rusty and making it look beautiful again. And so that's kind of been our journey. Couldn't find somebody to build it for us. So in that same 3 years that one of the builders told me it would take to build my wife a Bronco, we built and delivered 35 and have 70, 74, 75 on order. So that's what we've done with the business. And some of the things that are really exciting to me, the Blaney project, building a Bronco for the Ryan Blaney Family Foundation. Ryan Blaney is actively involved. He and I actively designed this thing together. And, having that be sold at auction to support the Alzheimer's Association. He's personally affected by it. I'm personally affected by it. And so, it's a really, really unique project. And you got to see it firsthand.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I'm just imagining your dad shaking his head going, son, you built up these businesses. You sold the business for a good fair amount of money. You could sit back and do anything. And what do? You start another business. Like you said, you're just not wired that way. I have a feeling your idea of retirement is this and not going and sitting on a beach, right?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, quite clearly, my idea of retirement is historic, racing an old Shelby. And, I'm also a competitive water skier and triathlete. And so, these are things that we enjoy doing. And I have a lot of fun marketing the product, meeting the clients who each have really unique and kind of interesting lives of their own. And so we have a lot of fun with it. And in the end, one of my clients said it best. He said, you build a grin maker. And it's a fun vehicle. It's a really fun vehicle in the end. And so it drives unique. It turns unique. It stops uniquely like a Bronco, but with about 80% of the bad behavior gone and just keeping the 20% of the good behavior as a reimagined Ford Bronco.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. So I can bring you either a vehicle I have or you can source one. And then from there, is the sky the limit, or kind of a set certain number of things you can pick and choose, kind of like an accessories list on? You talk about improving it. Obviously, those old vehicles were a little rough. They weren't designed to be super fast or anything real smooth, but you make them very, very comfortable. So what's the process if I want you to build me a Bronco?
Well, the process is really easy. We hold a call for about 10 minutes. We understand what you'd like to have and your desired outcome, and we build it for you. And it's really just that easy. The sky is the limit. We're building an electric Bronco. We'll do twin turbos. We've got multiple supercharged vehicles in the shop right now. So it is built on an assembly line, but it's built just like the Porsche, where the Porsche you could get green tread and red stitching, and you could get anything you want in a late model Porsche. Is very similar to what we do. You can get anything you'd like. It's still built on an assembly line, which means it has the quality controls in place. It allows us to offer you a 3 to 5 year warranty wherever you live.
Wow. It's fantastic. I'll encourage my listeners, just go to gatewaybronco.com. You can check these things out. Spend a little time there. I think you're going to spend a little time there. It's a fun way to go through and look at what these guys are building. He's got a very creative team, talented team working with him. I think it's fantastic what you've created here, Seth. Bravo for what you're doing. So much fun. And they put a grin on your face. When you see them, you just can't help but smile, because those of us at a certain age range will remember those Broncos back in the day. And if you ever had any fun out in the dirt, driving around or on a farm or wherever, that's where those things love to go. So very cool. Well, Seth, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. When you want proven performance, there's one brand that's been around since 1938. That's Edelbrock, building the finest American-made performance products for the street and track. Edelbrock's products are designed and dyno proven to deliver maximum results. Edelbrock has thousands of made-in-the-USA performance products for all makes and models. From their new AVS2 carburetor and innovative ProFlow 4 EFI for your muscle car or truck, to superchargers for your daily driver and more, visit Edelbrock.com to check out the latest products for your ride. And when you're ready to check out, enter CARS YEAH in the coupon code and get 10% off your order. That's Edelbrock, automotive performance since 1938. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp., member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. All right, Seth, we're back, and I have a bit of an introspective question. I'm going to get into your skull a little bit here. If you woke up tomorrow and you were a vehicle parked in the garage, not what you want to be, but how you perceive yourself as a vehicle, what would Seth be and why?
That's a great question, Mark. I firmly believe that people should drive a car that makes them feel like it's a representation of who they are. I really believe that. And, if I were going to think of the car that would be manifested in myself, I'm an Ironman triathlete. So endurance athletics is a big part of who I am. When you think of that, you think of Porsche, you think of anything in racing that is Sebring or Le Mans or something like that. So in the end, I think I drive what I would perceive to be, who I am. I drive a V8 Ford Raptor, daily drive a Carrera S Porsche, and a race a 67 Shelby race car. So it's kind of I'm a blend of all three.
And I like it. I like it. Good answer. Nicely done. Well, we are entering the last lap. I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of those 3-car throttle. 3 very fun cars for sure. You ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. What's the best automotive advice you've ever received?
Best automotive advice: buy original paint.
Yeah, original cars. I've got a good friend, Bill. In fact, he joined me down there during Car Week. He and I used to race vintage cars together, and he's a big advocate of collecting authentic original cars. That's what he's done most of his life. He has restored a few and learned his lessons about the costs of that. Find the best original car you can. You'll be happy to know I practiced that. I've got one of those in my garage, a 1987 Porsche 930 Turbo, all in original paint. It's a paint to sample car too, which is kind of cool, in a very unique non-Porsche color. It's metallic orange. So I'll have to send you a picture of that.
I'd love to see that.
Affectionately call her my orange crush. So followers on social media know her very well. Would you share one of your personal habits? And I can tell you've got some very good personal habits that you believe has contributed to your successes over the years.
I would say, a simple one would be early to rise. Get up before the rest of the world that you work within and be the first one on the scene.
Another great thing my dad taught me, get to work before the boss and don't leave until after the boss leaves. Treat anywhere you work like it's your own business. Would you behave that way if you owned this business? But he grew up on a farm in Texas, so he was used to getting up early, and I had a paper route for 5 years, so I think that taught me about getting up early. But I grew up in Southern California. It got me into the surf early, so I could go surfing before I went to school every day, which was kind of fun. So I love those early mornings. Still do that to this day. How about a resource? Is there one that you'd like to share with our listeners that you found really appealing?
Well, maybe I'll give you a broader, kind of resource. What I found is, I'll affectionately call these folks the graybeards. Finding folks that could be a mentor in this space. I'm seasoned in business, but not in automotive. And so when I came into this automotive, with both feet, buying a 60,000 square foot building and starting a business, I really just started working with folks that were willing to give me advice and counsel from the Shelby perspective, and being humble and just listening to those folks that had lived through these things and were willing to give me some counsel. And I call them the graybeards, and hopefully most take that affectionately, that it's a very positive thing that they've been able to give me advice, and I was willing to listen and then apply it.
Great advice. Yeah. Find somebody who's been there, done that, that's willing to share. And, a lot of the graybeards, as you call them, are very willing to share things with you. You just need to ask and then shut up and listen, and they'll share a whole lot of stuff with you. So very good advice. How about if I could arrange for you to have a drink or a meal with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased? Who would it be?
Mark, that's such a tough one. We've got the first Bronco, the very first Bronco that was owned by Carroll Shelby for 10 years. And, as a Shelby fan, and personally now knowing Aaron Shelby, and I'd love to have a conversation with Carroll. That would be a fantastic thing. But I think if I could do one, would probably be Lee Iacocca. If you look at what he had done throughout his career, creating and bringing the Mustang to fruition, he's also behind the Bronco, maybe begrudgingly in some instances, but brought forward the Bronco. Then after Ford, looking at, and he had failures as well, because, look at this guy. He was the man behind the Pinto. And, really he had some great successes, but also some major failures, and then went on to Chrysler to do some other great things. And so I don't know if he gets all the credit that he deserved over time. But I would love to sit down with a Moscow Mule and, some conversation with Lee Iacocca.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that would be fantastic. Now, how about a book? I would imagine you've read lots of great books. Is there one in particular you'd like to share with our listeners?
I'm going to give you the last one. As a part of our business, we do men's group here on Friday mornings. We have at least this last book that we did, and we're looking for our next book. And this one was 7 Secrets of Effective Fathers. It's a book written by Ken Canfield. And really, when you think of what we're doing, we're working hard every day, every week to do what we do. It's really centered around somebody that's special in our lives, and what wouldn't be more special to guys building cars than their kids. And so we read that, and we went through that as a team, and I think it's a great book that I recommend for any father or to be father. Yeah,
absolutely. I've not read that book. I'll have to read it. Sounds great, and certainly. Well, I have 2 children. They're grown now, but I remember back when they were born and kind of thinking, oh, man, what do I do now? This is like a real deal. This is serious stuff.
It's a real deal.
Fortunately, I had a great partner in my life. I know we were talking before we started the show. Seth's been married for 25 years. I've been married for 35 years. And I think we both figured out marrying a great partner, somebody who kept us on our toes, was a way to do it. But no doubt my wife played a big part of that. In fact, she gave up her career to stay home and raise the kids while I was off working. So kudos to her for doing that, because she had a very cool career as an engineer. Loved what she did a lot. But she said, that's the best gift you ever gave me, was the ability to do that. So it's fantastic. 7 Secrets of Effective Fathers. I'll make sure I put a link to that book on Seth's show notes page. You can find that on the Cars Yeah website. Just go type in Seth. Burgett is how you spell his last name, or just Seth. I've had very few Seths on the show, so it'll be easy to find. And we'll put a click to link that book so you can get your hands on it and read it. If maybe you know somebody who's going to be a father, or maybe you're lucky enough to be a father soon. Sounds like a great read. All right, we're up to the checkered flag here, Seth, and this last question can be a bit of a doozy. Today I'm going to buy you any cool collector car on the planet. Doesn't matter who owns it or where it is. I'm going to park it in that garage of yours, but there are some rules that may make this a bit of a challenge. One is you can't sell it to buy a bunch of other toys with or to fund your business. So if you pick a Ferrari GTO at about 60, 70 million, you're going to have to keep it and drive it. That wouldn't be a bad thing. You do have to drive this car. No garage queens allowed around here. And here's the kicker. It's the only collector car you can have in your garage. You can only have one. So choose wisely, my friend.
Well, this isn't really fair because...
Well, I didn't say it was going to be fair.
I just sold 3 collector cars to buy the one that you're asking about. And it's a historic car, 67 Shelby, race since new. It was in Sebring in 71 and 72 and campaigned by a famous R&D engineer or R&D manager at Ford who developed the Mangusta for Lee Iacocca and many other things. And so I just bought the car and just had on the track to Hallett and Pitt. Yeah, thank you. So I would say that's it for me. And, one of the guys asked when how I was sitting in the car and if I was in it right for the money and when I would think about selling it. And I said, this is not a to be sold car. This is a go race this car, enjoy the car. And yeah.
So you're going to race it. Now it's a 67 Shelby, so it's a Mustang, right?
It is.
Well, very, very cool. And cars with stories are really the best cars to buy. They could be good stories. They could be bad stories. They could be crazy stories, but that's the thing. If you talk to people like that collector guy, Jay Leno, some of you may have heard of him. Someday I'm going to get him on this show. Man, he's a hard guy to nail down. I talked to him again on the lawn at Pebble, gave him my card for about the 5th time. Please come on my show. Maybe one day I'll get him on here. But, when you listen to Jay Leno talk, he buys only cars that have stories. So I think you're following in some good footsteps there. Very nicely done. Very happy you have your car of your dreams, too, because now I don't have to buy you one. So you've saved me a few dollars today. I appreciate that. I actually had many folks on the show that have the car of their dreams. So I'm very happy that that's happened because many people don't, or maybe they put a dream so high that it's a car they can't afford. I have to tell you, talking about singers, every once in a while I'll spend $1 or, as my son says, waste $1 on a lottery ticket. And you know what I write on the back of that ticket every time? Singer.
I saw, yeah.
Already pre-planned the winnings that I never seem to get, but those things are expensive, aren't they? Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, Seth, listen, you've taken me on a great ride today. Really enjoyed talking to you. I want to thank you for sharing your journey. Could you offer us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you rip off down the track in that 67 Shelby Mustang?
Oh, you bet. I would say, I've been so lucky and so fortunate throughout my entire career of doing what I'm passionate about, what I love, and just wake up every day, just can't wait to get out to do. And if there was any piece of advice, if you're not living your dream, not living that passion, then find a new passion or find a new way to live that passion. With that passion, success comes.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I've had 1,396 guests now here on Cars Yeah that have done exactly that. So if you haven't listened to all the shows, you can go back and learn a lot of valuable lessons from past guests, just like you have from Seth here today. And what's the best way for our listeners to learn more about Gateway Bronco?
Well, Mark, I think you can always go to gatewaybronco.com, also Instagram and Facebook. Those are great avenues to kind of see what we're doing, where we're going next, what event we'll be at, and how we can meet face-to-face.
There you go. Gatewaybronco.com. Great website, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media sources. You can follow along and set your goals for getting your brand new Bronco built for you. Very, very cool. Seth, thanks for being so generous today with your time, your expertise, and for sharing your experiences. Thank you for sharing some time with me at the Jet Center party. That was a great party. Lots of fun, lots of cool things to look at. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate the time.
This was great fun. Hey, Mark Green here from Cars Yeah. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? It's a weekly visit to some of my past Cars Yeah podcast guests, and I take you along for the ride. You go behind the garage door and into their lives, their businesses, and you get to see what makes them successful. With tens of millions of viewers, Cars Yeah TV is making its mark. Cars Yeah TV is available on MAV TV and Lucas Oil Racing TV. You'll find MAV TV on Direct TV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through Lucas Oil Racing Television online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.